Some of the tools you will need for rabbit is a bin of some kind to put the carcasses in after they have been gutted and skinned and they're ready to go into either Ziploc bags. You can immediately put them into the freezer, or you put them into a bin and you can put them in the freezer the next day after you've done some cut and wrap. A container or bag of some kind for organs that you're going to keep. Another bin, bag, or container for any head, feet, tails, skins that you're going to keep for making crafts, dog treats, anything like that. And a nice sharp boning knife, also a gut bucket. This is how I string up my rabbits. Just have this board that's hung up just about to the top of my head, and then we hang rope. I have screws at different widths on here so that I can choose whatever animal I'm stringing up here. I can adjust to the width that I need to separate its legs. Just put a baling twine. You can use any kind of rope, twine that you chains, anything like that. They make tools for this you can use, but I just use baling twine. I loop it on the screws so that it doesn't slip off if you have just weight on one side. And then I make a slip knot that gets tension when there's weight on it. So the more weight that's on it, the tighter it's getting so that your carcass doesn't fall off. Oh no, monkey trap. Help. Okay, I'm free. So after the rabbit has been dispatched, I string it up here, hanging up by its back legs to do the skinning and gutting. Some additional tools you may want are some gloves if you don't want to touch it with your bare hands. It's fine too, you're not going to get parasites transfer through the raw meat. So optional gloves and shears, poultry shears for cutting through bone to get those little feet off, the ears off. Those are just optional. You really just need a knife and somewhere to string it up. If you don't have somewhere to string it up, you can do this on a tabletop, but this is easier. And sped up version of how I get my rope set up. This is station number 2. I have 2 side by side and I have 2 people usually doing this together. Come on, this kind of stuff is a lot more fun when you got friends. Because it's not fun, but it's necessary. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a rabbit out of the cage. I'm going to dispatch it at the cage so I don't have to carry it very far, leave them in their cages until I'm ready for it. I'll immediately dispatch it on the ground using the broomstick method, and then I'll bring it over here where I string it up by its back legs and we'll begin the processing from there. So let's get to it. Now we're going to start. Jeez, go away. The victim has been chosen. First, I start with a prayer of gratitude in my heart for this living creature that is going to be feeding my family. And then we'll put him on the ground. My coat is really hindering my ability. And it's done. These are the death throes. His neck has been broken and separated from his body. There's nothing holding it on. Those are just death throes.
Here's the second one. You can see how quickly the dispatch is, that there's no suffering, that it is
The faster
instant.
you can do the broomstick, the better. Completely dislocating their heads. And we just go string them up. These are just death throes. No, not for you, kitty. All right. Let's go string them up. For a better angle. Okay. String your rabbit up. Put that loop underneath the joint here so that it holds on to the rabbit and it's not going to just slip off the feet. Now I'll immediately take the ears off. reserve those. And then I'll take the head off. And let it bleed. The head should come right off because you've already broke the neck and there's just no bone there. So you're just cutting through the flesh to get the head off.
And I'll get rabbit number 2 ready for Wanda to take the skins off. Though the neck was broken, it was not completely dislocated from its body, and I had to break the rest of the bones apart to get that head off. On harvest day, I don't feed my dogs because of this.
Megan! Treat! Treat!
Fresh breakfast. The dogs love it. Okay, this is where the poultry shears come in handy, so you can just snip those little feet off on the front. So when you're taking the skin off, it just peels right off there. If you don't take the feet off, it usually just rips the skin off right there anyways, and you have to cut those front paws off anyways. So either way, you can start with cutting those feet off on the front, or you can do it after you pull the skins off. I find that sometimes if you leave those front feet on, that it catches the skin. So if you've got an older rabbit, its pelt is going to be thicker and it's not going to pull off of those feet very well. So I like to cut the feet off first and then do the skinning. The rabbit bones are very brittle and easy to just snap through. So I cut through the fur and the skin and then just snap that bone and then cut through the rest of the tissue. And sometimes you struggle with it and make it look a lot harder than it actually is, because it's not as hard as I made it look just there. All right, so far you've taken the ears off, reserve those to dehydrate for cat and dog treats. Take the head off, fed it to the dogs for a fresh breakfast, and you took those front feet off, which can also be dehydrated for dog and cat treats or fed fresh to the dogs. Now we move up to those ankle area and we slice around the skin, just through the skin, try not to get into the meat there. We do that on both legs, pulling that skin up to where the legs meet. Now, the older your rabbits are, the tougher this is going to be. The younger they are, the flesh is just going to come right off. So that is one thing that can be a contributor to how old you want to process your rabbits, because if you want usable pelts, older is better so that that pelt holds together. If you want something easier to process, younger is easier. Now that the pants are pulled all the way up to the top, you're going to use your fingers and separate that fascia between, so you can get your fingers in between, slide your knife in and cut up to release that front. Now you do the same thing on the back, separating all that skin to where you can get all the way through the pelt, separating the skin, and get your knife in there, and then you're going to do the same thing and cut up, releasing the tail. You're going to leave the tail behind. The tail is going to be attached to the bowels, and you're going to bring that all through at the same time once you've opened the body cavity. Now that you have all of that skin separated, just the tail sitting there, you're going to roll this down and try to keep that fur off of the flesh and just pull it down inside out. It just slides right off at this point. If your rabbit is older, these arms will be kind of tough to break free, and so you'll just poke your thumb through that elbow spot, release the fascia, and give it a good pull. The older the rabbits are, the harder this part is. So pulling those sleeves off, then getting it off the neck. You have a reusable pelt. I put that in a bag, and I'm going to be using those for something else. You can use them for tanning and making all kinds of different projects with. I like to just dehydrate it and give it to the dogs. I'm not set up for tanning yet. All right, now we're going to open this thing up. You're going to separate those legs, and you can see where the tissue meets in the center. Slice that very center. You're carefully going into where the pelvis bone is. You're slicing just that tissue and flexing it backwards like this to break the pelvis bone open, and carefully slicing just the tissue, not to perforate the bowels. And I apologize I wasn't able to get better view of this. I don't have a videographer. It's just me trying to film stuff I'm doing while trying to do stuff. So once you're in there, carefully, very carefully open the stomach right here. There's the bladder right up front there. And it's very easy to puncture that and then have urine just dump all over your fresh meat there. So at the very beginning, careful that their bladder is not going to be perforated. And then from here, just gently pulling that tail after you've cut the tailbone and you got the entire tail connected to the intestines, and everything should just pull on through very carefully. There's going to be fascia holding it together, so just following that intestines with your fingers and breaking any fascia that's holding it in. Just getting it through that pelvis is the hard part. After that, you've got all of the poop stuff down lower below the rabbit, so the danger of getting yucky stuff on your meat is now done. Okay, now here I start pulling out the organs I'm going to keep. There's a tiny little spleen. Isn't that cute? I don't eat this part. I reserve it for dog food. Next, you'll find the kidneys. They're located near the back, and you will find 2 little ball-looking kidneys. They kind of look like, well, kidney beans. And those I reserve for dog food. I'm going through these real nice and slow so that you guys can see these on camera. I usually just rip all this stuff out pretty quick. Just grab the stuff that I want to keep and throw the rest in the gut bucket. So nice and slowly, you're gently pulling everything out. All that is the stomach, then the bowels. Those will go into the gut bucket, and then I'll come back in here and I'll find the liver. I'll gently pull the liver out. It can be very helpful to have a printout of the anatomy. So as you're pulling things out, you can look at the diagram and identify what is keep and what is throwaway. This is a gorgeous liver, and on the liver you're going to find a bile sac. This is a green little balloon looking thing. Sometimes they're really big, sometimes they're really small, but that little bile sac, you don't want to keep it. And you don't want to perforate it, because if that green stuff gets all over the meat or the liver, it's going to taint the flavor and be dog food from there. So very carefully taking that bile sac off. You can dog food the liver or keep it if it's in good shape. Next, we'll get through the lining of the diaphragm, where the lungs and the heart are separated by a thin diaphragm membrane. Here we have the lungs with the trachea, and I reserve those for adding to the dog food. And finally, you'll find the tiny heart. These can go to dog food or to human food, whichever you prefer. Now just take one good look, make sure you've pulled everything out and that it's good cleaned up. Then we're going to break those feet off. Again, this is when those poultry shears are in handy, but these feet are really quite easy to break off. All right, congratulations, we've done the first rabbit. From here, we take it to the hose and we give it a really good thorough rinse. We try to get as much of the hair off of those ankles as we can and rinse out that inside until the water's running clear. And again, because I'm my own videographer, sometimes I set up my camera and then I'm out of frame the whole time. But just give those rabbits a really good wash. The inside needs to be running clear. And then I like to run my hands down the length of the legs to try to pull that hair out of the fascia. It really gets stuck in that fascia, and trying to get that hair to rinse off. So I pull down and then rinse my glove and repeat that as many times as you can get as much of that hair off as you can. Honestly, it's just impossible to get every tiny piece off, and you're just gonna have to be okay with having a little bit of hair in your food every once in a while. It's just a part of having rabbits. This is the bin that I store them in the refrigerator until the next day that I do cut and wrap, and I'll do a video of that for part 2. Now let's start the whole process again, but having Wanda do it for the very first time.
One of the rules is not to get attached to the rabbits.
Number 1 rule.
Number 1 rule. But I've been feeding them since they were born. So,
a good hand on its shoulders and head area. So you put her here, holding her. Put this across her neck and immediately step on it here and step on it here and pull her hard until you feel the crunch. So try to just do it.
Put it this way or this way?
Either way, just as long as you can step on it. Step, grab her, step.
Grab her legs.
You're gonna grab the back legs. Once, no, put her down. Put this on her neck, step on it hard, grab her, and yank it.
It's okay, baby. It's okay. It's okay.
Hold her shoulders like this on the ground. Up here, so that you can hold her head down. Put her down on the ground. Put her feet down. Yep. And hold her. Yep. Hold her like that. Now once you're ready, step on this hard and quickly. Okay, go, go, go. Step on this one, step on this side. Pull hard, pull hard.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, you did it.
Is she?
Yep.
Really?
Just give it a good pull. I heard the crunch. She's doing the throws. Yep. It's done. You did it. You can step off. She'll throw. Yeah, that neck is broken. You did it.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay to cry. It's okay to get shaky. Just say thank you so much for being here for us. Thank you, baby.